We also are having it transcribed on the screen for any hearing impaired people in the audience, although I don't believe there are any. Nevertheless, that will appear automatically on the web. In the streaming of the web, the transcription will occur. So if I find you looking over there and laughing, you'll see the transcriber may have made an error. So, but you know, speaking of laughing, I used to laugh a lot at Dean's jokes. You know, these jokes about the, you know, if a skunk and a Dean are crossing the road in front of a speeding car, what's the difference? Well, there's skid marks for the skunk, right? Another one, oh yeah, another one I remember was that if a woman called a university public relations office asking for a speaker for her club, she said, "I want nothing lower than a dean." The staffer replied, "Madam, there is no such person lower than a dean." So those jokes don't seem so funny anymore, do they? You know, the joke's on me this time. But I want to begin, first of all, by thanking so many of you who have sent their words of congratulations to me, both email and in person, and also to the staff who've helped me so much in the transition, because it came pretty quickly, as you know, and at a time just before the holidays. Sorry if that's making noise a bit. I'll get this put away here. I hope that's better, Mike. Hey, Obadiah? Yeah, okay. And in addition to thanking, I do want to thank the ABLE team for their help in arranging for the broadcast this morning and the transcription as well. So, with that, I do want to say, though, as well, that I am honored to be selected as interim dean of the faculty. Although I'm your new dean, I'm certainly not new to the faculty. In fact, I know for a fact, actually, that I'm the longest serving faculty member in education. Paul has been longer at York, but I think I'm the longest now in education who's still surviving. In fact, I was first appointed in 1984, but nearly not appointed. I'll tell you that story in a few minutes, actually, because I was considered to be quite radical at the time, believe it or not, and not really fitting philosophically with the faculty. But before that, I think, Obadiah, I might turn this off if it's going to rustle like that, unless you can turn the level down, because it's just rustling on my jacket here every time I talk here. Can you turn it down? Yeah. It's just the cord even on the jacket even is, like just the cord is so sensitive, yeah. See, just by, if you can turn the level down more or not use it, yeah.
Derek, just turn it down a little bit.
Yeah, sorry for everyone, yeah. Okay, that's actually better, yeah, okay. I think we can live with that, yeah. Okay, I do actually have, just getting over the sort of, not really flu, but the condition that everybody's been having these last few weeks and so on, so I do need the microphone for my voice to hold up this morning. So, anyway, I do want to begin by talking a bit about my own personal background. Then I'm going to talk about when I arrived at York, how I saw the faculty at the time, and how I have seen it evolve during my time here at York. And then I want to get to talking about my priorities as I see as dean of the faculty. So to begin with, I grew up in the 60s, actually, in Montreal. I went to Concordia University, then Sir George Williams, and majored in math, and graduated just before the famous computer riots at Sir George, which actually moved Canadian universities out of an age of innocence until radical events sort of took over. So during that time, I was growing up in Montreal, very excited about things, but like the graduate, when I did graduate, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I sailed in a boat down to Florida, bummed around there, backpacked in South America, actually. And then after about a year or so of that, I came back, figured I better really get a job. And I joined a German engineering firm, and I was very excited about that at the beginning. Lots of opportunities for travel with the international company Siemens, actually. And then, but after a while, it sort of started wearing off, and I said, well, what's the meaning of all this that I'm doing? And so a year later, I found myself on a plane, signed up as a CUSO volunteer to teach math in St. Lucia for 2 years. Now, that might sound today like the sort of a very delightful junket, but in fact, it wasn't. St. Lucia at the time had the lowest standard of living in the Caribbean. We had no textbooks in the school. I was responsible for teaching high school math, and no students had graduated from the British external exams in the last several years at least. So I had my challenges there. But I really dug into it and really began enjoying it. And after my 2-year stint, I realized that education was the field I wanted to go in. So I returned to Canada, worked on my B.Ed, and then followed by that with my master's at UNB. And in between, I taught school, high school math as well. Then I went on to Ottawa to study for my PhD in measurement and experimentation. After several years in Ottawa, before I finished, I returned back to Fredericton and became the coordinator of testing services for the province of New Brunswick. And I did that for 2 years, and then if everyone knows Fredericton, UNB is just up the hill. That's the word I always use to describe UNB, up the hill. So I went up the hill and applied for a program as director of a faculty position, as director of a First Nations program, BED program, 4-year direct entry BED program for First Nation students. It was a very unique program that involved courses on campus, and the faculty would travel around campus in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia and give courses to the teachers, to the students who were working actually as teacher aides on the reserves. That program, in fact, lasted for 7 years. It was externally funded, and we graduated 38 teachers from that program. And prior to that date, there had not been one single teacher in the Maritimes who was licensed. Every other teacher on the reserve, in fact, was non-native. So then at that point, I was, of course, looking what I'm going to do next, the next stage of my career. And I saw that York, in 1984, was advertising a position for the director of a special IBM cooperative project. And this project was set up through a cooperative agreement. In those days, IBM was giving lots of money. It was about a $3 million project. And it was to place computers in school boards, in the labs where we were giving our computers in the classroom courses, and also to create labs on campus, and then also get teachers involved in developing an online database. So I applied to the position. Several weeks later, I got a letter saying, thanks, but no thanks. You know, we've all gone through that period. So then I moved my thoughts on to something else. Then one Saturday morning, about a month later, I got a call from Andy Efrat, Dean of the Faculty. He said, well, we've gone through all the top listed candidates, and all of a sudden, you sound very interesting to us. So come on up. And so I can say then the rest is history, of course. So I arrived then at York in 1984. In fact, I found that my appointment was actually causing quite a bit of controversy in the faculty because they felt they were going out on a limb. My views with my quantitative methodology and so background were really conflicting with the prevalent views of the faculty at the time, which were very largely qualitative based and holistic approach to education. Just a year or two before I was hired, Luz Isusius was hired as, well, she was obviously a faculty member, but she became a very influential individual in the faculty. And through the 80s, she definitely influenced our direction, our hirings, and the whole being of the faculty. Unfortunately, though, if those of you who may not know her, Luz was injured very seriously during the mid-80s in a car accident. And she's been on long-term disability until just this past year when she retired. But Luz was very influential, and I had long talks with Luz trying to square the idea of quantitative and qualitative approaches, and it was very interesting. In fact, we would sit around, there was probably only about 10 faculty at the time in education, sit around debating these things at lunch, which is something we just don't do anymore, do we? It's unfortunate, but that's the price of progress. So I'd like to go back a little bit in sort of tracing the history then. When I arrived in '84, the faculty, of course, was formed just in the 70s, in the early 70s. The prevailing point of view at that point, expressed by Dean Overing, was that the purpose of the faculty, what we were doing is creating educational change, advancing student learning. That was the goal. So the idea then in the practicum placements, student teachers would work side by side with their cooperating teacher to produce educational change. There was also a feeling when the faculty was formed that it should be kept small. There was a feeling that education was not a legitimate discipline for study. The cognate disciplines, the math, the sciences, the sociology was probably a bit questionable, but the so-called cognate disciplines were the ones who would bring the expertise to the faculty. So we would have a handful of people responsible sort of for the practicum and the education, the methods courses, and so on, but the real expertise would come from outside the faculty. This point of view actually still prevails at York. If you talk to faculty from other faculties who've been around a long time, you'll see they'll be kind of surprised that we really do research in education, that it's not just sort of the practice side. And that actually carries forward still on our cross appointments. We're one of the few faculties that really does a lot in the way of cross appointments with fine arts, our position with math right now, and so on. So then around 1980, sort of looking at the 70s, and the 80s changed when Andy Efrat arrived. And his views changed actually from this emphasis on improved student achievement to one of change for social advancement. That was kind of the thought that took hold, that, yeah, okay, we want students to improve their achievement, but social advancement is something that's extremely important we must do. And he felt that the most effective way to do this was by addressing sort of the needs of the whole child. So we saw in our MEd program the very holistic as opposed to a clinical approach to dealing with special ed. Special ed was the only focus at that point really in our master's program. And we saw it in the BEd program as well, the holistic approach, particularly through reading and language, of course. In fact, at one point, IBM had asked me, of course, I was then director of the IBM project. IBM asked me to evaluate one of their programs called Writing to Read, which is a phonics-based program. And I was told in no uncertain terms, should I touch that program, because York did not want to be associated with phonics. Things have changed, but that's the way it was, of course. Then, of course, Stan Shapson arrived late 80s, I think 89, not sure exactly. And he brought with him the ideas of anti-racist education and multicultural education. And during his term, we actually saw the faculty complement grow quite significantly. We saw the creation of the PhD program, and Don and I were very influential in setting up the program. We said, let's do it, right, Don? We said, let's do it. Let's sit down and meet. Any colleagues who want to come, we'll share ideas, and we'll move ahead. No more hand-wringing and lamenting the fact that we don't have a PhD. In fact, I believe I was the one who first proposed the idea of language, culture, and teaching as a way of trying to bring everybody together into a theme that would cover everybody's areas of interest. And that theme, as the program went on and got approved, quickly fell in and shaped our hirings and, of course, the master's program as well. Then after, of course, when Stan moved on to senior administration in roughly the mid-90s, we had a dean who lasted for maybe a year, and Terry Piper. And nothing really happened during that time, I could say. And of course, then Paul came in as dean, Paul Axelrod. And Paul then, of course, introduced the ideas sort of continued the urban education really that Stan had talked about, the social justice, and community involvement. And of course, Alice has promoted these ideas as well. So this is where I've seen us evolve. Now, let's talk about where we're likely to be headed. Okay, so I've had some ideas. I've talked to a number of people about it. And what's quite clear is that we can't carry on business as normal. I think all of you are probably pretty well aware of it. Our sources of funding are under threat. This year, for instance, in the B.Ed program, next year we're being cut another 45 spaces. And who knows what's going to happen after that, whether it's steady state or down lower. And our professional development program, which really has truly supported the faculty in many ways, allowed us to do some of the creative extra things. The enrollments are dropping because the population, the demographics are aging, teachers have got their AQs, there's more competition on the market, so our income is dropping from these sources. So we are in kind of a dilemma about what to do, but this is not the first time actually the faculty's been through a crisis similar. When I was associate director of then called field development, which is the in-service program, we had 11,000 registrations in the program, and we were getting ministry grants for all of those students. Education could do what it wanted in those days because we were a net contributor to the university. We were contributing like $7 million at least net, like to the university. So we could more or less write our ticket, right? But then the ministry announced that we're no longer funding courses for teachers. And the sky fell. And we actually suspended the program for a year, looked at ways that we could modify it, rejig it, came up with the idea of making it much more board-based, letting boards have much more say and involvement in planning and teaching, and also we adopted the action research model. So that, in the end, came out well. We sort of were faced with this situation, and we came out well. And I think we can do the same kinds of things now. We can look at seriously what our strengths are, look at how we can redo things. So sometimes these financial crises will help us. So after talking to a number of people, many of you in the room here as well, I've decided that I'd like to focus on 3 priorities to move us ahead in these very tough times. So the first is, like, I'll explain these in detail, program innovation and advancement. Second, I want to talk about focus on development of a comprehensive digital strategy. And third, of course, we absolutely have to focus on sound financial management. So now I'll elaborate. Okay, for program innovation enhancement, I think it's quite clear that the professional development market is there, and we've got to pursue that. It will no longer likely be AQ courses, additional qualification courses, in large numbers. They'll always be there. So we have to look at the ideas of mini courses, workshops, seminars, conferences. Some of these events may occur online, some of them may be face-to-face, or some might be a hybrid combination of the two. We also don't need to restrict ourselves to teachers. We've got the whole health sector, for example, where we can pursue and develop opportunities there. And we have, on the other side, there's corporate trainers. A number of corporations, like our graduates actually, are even getting into corporate training sections. So that's first. So the AQ professional development courses, it's quite clear we have to give a strong focus and work on those. In terms also of innovation, I think the Academic Innovation Fund project that Jen and Lyndon are working on, and a number of you in the room as well, that's a vision of where we can go when we start putting our heads together and thinking of how can we rethink our teaching. And that kind of project, I fully support and want to see it happen, go forward and be successful. We also need to look at new approaches for delivering pre-service and grad courses, again, through online and blended, to create more opportunities for our students, to give us a competitive advantage over other institutions. God, we've got Australian universities coming in and giving master's degrees, professional master's degrees in our own backyard. I mean, that's undercutting us. That can't go on. We've got to be much more attractive and responsive to the market and the demands. Thirdly, we have to really look at developing a non-B.Ed program if this faculty is going to, for the long term, going to survive. We really have to look at non-B.Ed. One of the ideas I've been talking about is a program, possibly undergraduate degree in child and youth studies, child and youth community studies. Sort of fits with our mandate. Throughout the province, every community college is giving child and youth worker programs and two or 3 year diploma programs. We could develop an articulation program to draw upon those students and bring them into a degree program, say child and youth studies, and I think have a very successful program with not a huge amount of effort. Sure, a 2 year program is still lots of work, lots of challenges for that. There's only one other program in the province in this area, and that's at Humber College. They're giving a degree program in this area. But it's an opportunity for us. Pardon? Guelph? Articulation as well? Well, Guelph, actually, isn't that the Guelph Humber? Yeah, it's the Guelph Humber, yeah, right, yeah, right. So I think it's a ripe opportunity for us. It could be a program, again, that's this hybrid model between online and face-to-face. We could allow students to take their fall-winter courses online, so we could get the Thunder Bay students, the Ottawa students, the London students, taking the courses, then coming face-to-face in campus for the essential component of team building. It could be a cohort-based approach. I don't want to sort of limit opportunities whatsoever. But that's certainly an area we can look at, and it makes sense as an extension of what we're doing and our expertise, and certainly we're open to other ideas. I guess you could say then the fourth area that focusing on program innovation is the professional masters. We've talked a lot about this, and I think it's time to move forward. We do want to pursue this. And that also will probably combine face-to-face, online. It'll probably be a cohort-based program. Leadership seems to be an area that many of us are talking about, and we can look at some unique niches in leadership. Not admin, but leadership, like leadership for urban schools. Technology is another possibility, technology leadership. But this is obviously open for discussion. So I think we need to begin now on these initiatives. We can't, much the way we grabbed a hold of the PhD and said, this is what we're going to do, we need to begin now. We've had task forces in the fall, and I think they've generated a lot of ideas, good ideas. But I think the time is now to move forward, and I'd like to see this happen within existing committee structure. Now, I was a little disappointed when I saw, for instance, that the director of the grad program wasn't present when we were talking about all these innovative ideas for the grad program. So it's got to occur through existing structure. So in other words, Karen will have to lead the initiative through whatever method she feels is appropriate, grad exec, subcommittee of curriculum, whatever the program feels is the way to move forward to develop this degree. So it's quite clear that we have to use existing structure and not sort of come from the outside and not involve the people who are directly with the program. Okay, now, second point is moving on to the digital strategy. We all know how important the web is. The first thing we do if we want to find out information about somebody, something, of course, is we Google it, right?
Not to interrupt, but speaking of which,
Yes.
is the agenda on here somewhere?
The agenda?
Digitally?
No,
It's on SharePoint. It's on
the faculty council agenda.
under faculty council.
Yeah, okay. Actually, digital strategy, Anita, that wasn't a planted remark. SharePoint is terrible. We know that. People can't find stuff there. So one of the things, this is getting a little out of order of what I'm going to be talking about, but SharePoint is an example of technology that's not user-friendly. People don't bother going to it because it requires a separate login. So we're going to be developing it so when you're in your Outlook mail, you can click on a link and you're in SharePoint and you see it, and we're going to organize that better. That's a little bit off the topic, but it's part of the whole thing. So in other words, I want us to be leaders in digital technology, and that involves our website and everything we do online. Our website is extremely important. It attracts students. Students find out about our institution through the website. When they're here, they go to the website to get information, and when they graduate, an area that we've kind of neglected, our alum will want to come back, and we want to give them reasons to come back and see what's going on in the faculty. And so we can keep in touch and build those links with them. So that's extremely important. So we need to develop a strategy where we can take all this into consideration. Social media as well. How can we make good use of social media? And that's going to be a key part of it. I want to encourage as well, as part of the digital strategy, all faculty to develop Moodle sites for their courses, or equivalent platforms, if it's not Moodle, some other site, to support their courses, to give students access to the increasing amount of digital resources we have in our courses. This is obviously your choice, but I want to encourage you and provide you the support so you can do it. And if that support means hands-on in your office, that's what you'll get. If it means me coming to your office and helping you, that's what you'll get. Seriously, that's a fact. I'm not just saying that. So I want to encourage it. Make an appointment with Emily, though. So we need to get into, I mean, we're doing some good work, by the way, which is not necessarily all that well known. The Deaf Ed program, they've got an online program there. Of course, the AQ courses, we're into online as well. And a number of faculty are doing innovative work. Jen is, not to single out individuals, but Jen is, certainly Mary Lee is. Karen Stanworth is, and Karen, I hope you're watching because Karen said she'd be tuning in. Karen in Fine Arts took a massive project in 1900 introductory courses with 300 students and turned that online. So we need to learn from our colleagues as well. In addition, as part of the digital strategy, we absolutely have to make our website fully accessible. We want to go above and beyond what the AODA, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, requires. For us, it's a no-brainer. That's what we have to do, and we want to do that right away. We're not waiting until 2014, 2021 for all this to happen. We need to do it right away. That's got to be a priority. And in addition, of course, our websites have to be mobile-friendly because that's what students are using. Mobile devices, smart mobile devices are now outselling laptops and desktop computers. And that's what our students, that's what our colleagues, that's what we're using. So that's extremely important. The university is actually working on a digital learning plan led by Sue Vale's office with goals for 2017 that they want the university to accomplish. And I'd like to see us, when that plan comes out, to accomplish all those goals within about a year or so, and I don't think there's going to be any problem doing that. So now, third point, area of focus that I've chosen is fiscal management. As I mentioned, our budget situation is very worrisome. We're going to be falling over the physical cliff into a deficit situation in 2014-15. In other words, in just over a year from now, we're going to be in a deficit situation. In the past, well, actually, we're in a deficit situation now, in the past couple of years as well. What's been happening is that we've had good days in the faculty in the past. The AQ courses, for instance, have generated revenue, and we've banked that money. So now what's happening is that banked money is keeping us afloat. But by 14-15, the bank will be empty. There'll be no more funds. So it starts quite modestly in 14-15 at $200,000 debt. But this starts escalating from there. The following year, so 15-16, the debt will be $2 million. The year after that, it's going to be $5 million, and I don't dare even project beyond that. So it's quite serious. I mean, we have to do something about this. We've drained all our resources. And the sad thing about this is it doesn't give the faculty any room for flexibility now. If we're in a deficit type situation, someone comes with a great innovative idea and needs a bit of money to start it up and get that idea rolling. Well, there isn't money for that. The question will be, where do we take it from? Who do we cut? Does it mean a staff position cut if we go in that direction? It's quite serious. And you know, I'm in this office for only a year and a half, but I'm going to take it seriously because the next dean, if it's Alice or whoever it may be, I don't want that person to inherit this kind of debt. It's just not fair. Some people will say, well, the university is going to bail us out. Other faculties are in debt. We're not the only ones, but we can't be irresponsible like that. So we have to do something. So we need a balanced approach, obviously, which means income generation and cost savings. Now, Andrea has done a tremendous job, actually, at the rationalization and reorganization of the staff. And when individuals retire, she's looked at how can those responsibilities be shared or done better in different ways by different people. So she's done a remarkable job at sort of reorganization, and we're in the process of hiring and making sure that those positions hold forth. So that's certainly one area where we've certainly reduced expenses. Okay, another area like I think we really need to look at the possibility of secondees no longer or not taking as many secondees into the faculty and hiring contract people. It's sad because secondees are really the hallmark of our program. But I think it's reasonable to start thinking of some contract people to replace some of the secondee positions. And that would certainly result in cost savings. The alternate stream is another possibility. Alternate stream is not too well known in the faculty here, or across York actually, but alternate stream has been in the UFA collective agreement for many years, and there was an initiative to increase the number of alternate stream actually at York. So this is something that we'll need to look at as well. We might be able to get outstanding teachers, professionals, mid-career, who may have gone on and got a doctorate, and get them into our faculty as teachers. That would be a great way to advance. And offer them a career at York as excellent teachers. So that's one way. But before we go anywhere with alternate stream, T&P, Dan, we'll have to look at that because we can't hire alternate stream unless there are criteria for promotion and advancement. You know, we actually had an alternate stream as associate dean way back in the 80s, Louise Lewin, and if anyone knows her from Glendon, French instructor. Yeah, she was actually associate dean in the faculty at one point, so but not well known. So that's one possibility. I think we have to be open to all possibilities. We've done some other, yes, Dan, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No. No, absolutely no. That's correct, yeah. So in terms of other cost savings that we've undertaken, we're going to be moving the email servers from education, from Winters, over to central UIT. And thank God that can't come soon enough because we're really running on a, well, we have staff who are on call in case the servers fail. And you know, all of you have probably experienced that time when you couldn't log in. Well, a staff member has to come to York and has to be paid to be on call, to come to York, to fix the servers. If we get it over to UIT, that cost will be eliminated, and we'll have much more reliability, backup and reliability. Like if the servers fail, we could be in serious problems with loss of email, but Adam is working towards correcting that difficulty. When I found that out, I was pretty shocked, actually. I thought we'd long ago moved them over to UIT. Of course, the Whitby site has closed. That's been a cost savings. The Catholic Education Center, we're negotiating with them. We have announced, I guess, that it was going to close because they were charging us excessive fees, we felt, rental fees. And now they're reconsidering, actually, and possibly not even charging a fee. And in that case, we'll remain there. And there's been lots of work in terms of just rationalizing day-to-day processes. These are not big money savers, but they're certainly ideas that action that's been taken that's going to certainly reduce our costs. So as for revenue generation, I'm definitely going to be working on securing a commitment from the provost that we receive adequate funding for any new undergrad, but most importantly, for any new grad programs. As bizarre as it seems, many of you may know this, but we do not receive directly a single penny for our grad students. And here we are, concerned about making our targets and everything like that, but we're not getting any income. The income goes to FGS, who then distributes it as student aid. So in other words, our grad program is based on income from undergraduate. Everything we do, and absolutely everything, is based on undergraduate. There's no funding for graduate. So we can't, and we won't, move ahead to any kind of professional program without guarantees that we're going to be sharing that funding directly to the program. So that's absolute, and I think that, having talked to Rhonda Lenton, I think that's going to be possible that we will get it. Certainly a percentage of the fees, like 75% say of the fees that come in. So we've got to work on that. And the same thing, if we go ahead and start planning an new undergraduate degree, the same thing, we absolutely have to have funding for that. There's some other income possibilities that are under the works, or in works actually, that are going to happen. The York Ryerson ECE program, that might bring in about 40 students or so, 40, 45 students, somewhere like that. That will help us. The Ed1 practicum, that goes through, that's a pilot, and when it goes through, it'll be possibly, or ideally, let's say, a credit course as a Gen Ed elective in the other faculties, and so we would get those enrollments counting to help us. So these are some initiatives that already have begun. So lastly, I really want to encourage any new ideas that you have for innovation, new initiatives. But any new initiatives that come forward, there has to be a financial plan. They have to be fully costed in terms of staff time, support staff, and services provided before we can make any kinds of commitments. Now, the list, my 3 priorities certainly are not exhaustive. I haven't really focused on research, and we obviously have to move strategically and quickly, aggressively on implementing our research plan. I think that almost goes without saying. And so that's definitely going to be happening. So in the end, I'm pledging to be open and collegial when tough decisions have to be made. I have no problems sharing budgets. I'm not obviously going to talk about individual salaries. You're not going to see that. That's private information, but I have no problem sharing. If you want to see our bottom line, I have no problem sharing that. And I think we do need to be open. We do need to share. We do need to be collegial in this process. And I hope by doing that, I can count on your support so we can move us ahead forward. So with that, I've talked long enough, and my throat's getting dry. Celia, we'll certainly have time for questions. Yeah. Yeah.
I am conscious that we have Celia Popovich here, and I actually have her slides from a couple of meetings ago, so I really do want to hear from you, Celia. But definitely, we'll take some time, maybe 10 minutes.
Sure, yeah. And if Jen is monitoring Twitter, if there are any comments from Twitter yet, just you as social board, okay.
Questions, comments, thoughts, lot to digest?
Yeah, there's been a lot, yeah.
Many ideas, many things to ponder.
Silence.
You've overwhelmed them.
Well, for now, until we get outside the door. So if not, oh.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Caroline is, and Jen, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
I would just say thank you. Thank you very much for taking on the position. This is for everybody. Thank you for laying out these ideas about movements that we might make. It gives us a sense of direction, and each of us speaks about sort of where we fit in there and what we would want to try to contribute.
Yeah, and there's definitely a place for everyone in it. Absolutely, yeah. Jen, I think?
Jen?
Yeah.
Well, thank you as well, and I appreciate the concreteness of your comments. There's lots of, you know, we get what you're saying. And I wondered if you could speak more concretely about your ideas about research, because I was sort of surprised that you didn't talk about it as a priority area.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, research is, as I said, we've got to move aggressively towards that plan. We've hired now a director of research, and we're sort of falling in line with what other faculties are doing. And now Steve has got someone with him to really to move that agenda forward. I'm not sure how well the research strategic plan has been shared. I don't remember seeing it myself until I saw it when I came into the dean's office. But certainly Steve can make that available to everyone. And I've got 100% support behind Steve for him moving ahead with that plan. But I mean, absolutely, research has got to move forward.
Just out of CMP, I think we'll hear from Steve some of the ideas that he has as well.
Yeah.
His report.
Yeah.
Sandra?
Well, I just wanted to say that I have some real points about research that I was going to make for these research work.
Yeah.
So, no. So I'm saying I hope there's enough time for us
Yeah.
to have this discussion under this 7.2 because
We hope there will be enough time to, and we're working together on that.
Yeah.
But definitely, we're going to be revisiting research as the faculty council meetings go along. And of course, there is the university strategic research plan, which
Yeah.
will be presented, I think, at the next faculty council meeting. So there'll be lots of opportunity, but definitely today. Other,
Nabus?
sorry, Abuso.
I actually like, since I'm new in the faculty, new is a buzzword, buzzword. And I like your idea when you're talking about Lucy, I think it was, you talk about the debates that you used to have in faculty research, and even though they are dated
Yeah.
debates. But I think what you're talking about is really the collegiality that's surrounded those kinds of practices in faculty.
Yeah.
And you say, well, it's the price of progress that you no longer have those kind of debates. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about your strategy towards creating collegiality within the faculty. Because I find, as a new person, fragments of independent qualities that I have no clue what to do on income.
Right. Yeah.
Fragments of independent qualities, fragmented cliques that you don't know whether you should be part of or not. Lots of mistrust, lots of seclusion, lots of, and this is not to say that people haven't worked hard per se, but having worked in several universities across the country, I find this sense of isolation in the faculty that troubles me a lot and wonders whether or not I should be looking forward towards moving to another space. So I
Yeah.
wonder if you could talk a little bit about your strategy concretely about how and what you may want to do to create a sense of collegiality, even if you don't necessarily like each other.
Yeah. But respect each other. Right. No, great point. And you know, that's, I'm sorry, Obadiah? Oh yeah, repeat the question. Is about developing a sense of collegiality in the faculty and avoiding the sense of isolation. In fact, we've got real problems with that, and I certainly admit that. And actually, I feel that way too, because I've been over in Tel for, what, 10 years at least anyway, and many of you, I don't know many people, well, in the room right now I do, but I don't know I certainly don't know very few of the secondees, and very few of the staff actually as well, except the ones I routinely would deal with. So I experience that myself. One thing that we have brought in is the idea of a faculty mentor for new faculty who come on board. And I've been Lyndon's mentor. Lyndon has a fast read here, and he was so. But that's very important for the mentors. And if you are a mentor, please take the role seriously and work with your colleague. And if the colleague doesn't come to you, you approach the colleague and try to involve him or her in that. So that's extremely important, the mentorship. You see, we do also have a structural problem, too, with the council, the faculty council, and then we've got the grad council. I think it's fair to say in grad council, we do have a good collegial discussion, but we kind of lack that in faculty council. And it's a real issue, and I'm not sure how we can resolve that. I would certainly like to. Faculty council has turned into more of an information session as opposed to an opportunity to debate and discuss. And one thing we can certainly do is urge C&P to leave more space in the agenda and encourage it. So that's key. Through Steve is going to be ramping up sort of our research colloquia and events. That's certainly an opportunity because then it gives us something common to talk about and come together. I don't want to be the price of progress, but I think it's the price of our expansion and being physically separated. First floor TEL, third floor of TEL, first floor, second and third floor of TEL, Winters, and where else are we? Of course, the sites. So, Glendon, of course, absolutely. So it's a difficulty. So maybe maybe we want to look at, Celia just mentioned, maybe we should talk about more video conferencing and making our meetings open that way. That's one way to bring people together too. So these are some suggestions. I'm certainly welcome to other suggestions.
And I do want to say that faculty council is in a position to call for a committee of the whole for discussions that we want to have on open-ended kinds of things.
Right.
I know Sandra Schechter has already proposed a discussion around research and particularly post-grant support, so that's one of the things that we're thinking of in a meeting coming up. But I do think this is an area that we can all think in.
And speaking of that, we do want to have the discussion and move ahead. So I think we're probably, should we?
One more comment,
Was there?
question?
I think we're done.
Do you have any more tweets?
No, okay.
Okay, well, thank you very
Okay.
much, Ron.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Yeah.